Dame Prue Leith has told the UK Tonight that the laws on assisted dying must change, and she wants the right to die when she wants to die. The Bake Off presenter has joined Dame Esther Rantzen in campaigning on this issue, having watched her older brother die a painful death due to cancer. And in an open letter Dame Prue sent to party leaders in Westminster, she detailed that the changes she wants, and she has received more than 235,000 signatures. Here is some of that letter. Dame Prue Leith writes, "The public should surely have a safe and legal option to end their suffering in a peaceful and dignified manner. For every day that passes until we reform our law, 17 people will suffer as they die." She goes on, "I ask you, as you prepare for the next general election, to listen to the voices of those most affected by this issue, dying people and their families. Please bring forward this important debate in the next Parliament as a matter of urgency." Well, earlier on, I spoke to Dame Prue and I asked her about her brother David and why his death motivated her to take on the politicians.
In the last 3 weeks of his life, he was spending, I suppose, 1 hour in every 4 in absolute agony because they would give him morphine, but either not enough or not frequently enough, because he'd be okay for a couple of hours. In fact, he'd be, on a sort of morphine high, being really nice and friendly and saying to the doctors that he felt fine. But then the drug would run out and he would be in absolute screaming agony. I mean, for his family to be round while he was crying, begging to die, begging to be given more morphine, it was desperate to watch. And then, of course, finally, every 4 hours, regularly, they'd give him a dose. But nobody seemed to be looking at the whole thing from his point of view. It was all to do with the doctor's rounds, and we only do drugs every 4 hours. And anyway, one consultant said to me, "Anyway, you do realise, don't you, that morphine is addictive?" And I said, "You've told me he's going to die within 3 weeks. If he's got 3 weeks to live, I don't care if he's as high as a kite."
Unbearable and difficult for him and your whole family. What kind of life did David lead, and how would he have wanted it to end? Not like that.
Well, of course, no, not like that. I mean, most people, I think, have a dream. If they think about death at all, which, of course, we don't do enough, they think they have a vision that they'd be like to be in their own bed at home, surrounded by their family, very comfortable, no pain. And we've got a sort of vision that comes from the movies, I think, which the patient is lying in bed, somebody's holding their hand, Mozart's playing. It doesn't happen like that. It hardly ever happens like that. But it can. I mean, my son and I went and made a TV documentary on the subject, going around America, looking at places which do have assisted dying. And we found many people who described their parents' death or their husband's death or some loved one's death, which had been pretty well like that, at home, with family, with drugs while the drugs worked. And when the drugs no longer could work and the patient really wanted to die, they would take a lethal dose or be given a lethal dose by a doctor. And they would just drift off, just as I'd like to. I mean, I'm 84, so I think about this quite often. And I really think my younger brother had a really good death. My elder brother had the one we've described. And honestly, I want to die like my younger brother died, at home.
Prue, your experience...
Free of pain.
Your experience of your brother David dying, that is what made you an advocate for those who are terminally ill, to campaign for assisted dying. The rest of your family witnessed the pain and suffering that your brother went through at the end, including your son, who you mentioned there, Danny. For those watching who don't know, he's a Conservative MP, Danny Kruger. He saw exactly what you did, that experience of his uncle. But he believes the opposite. He doesn't believe that assisted dying law should come in. Why is that? Why did you both go through the same thing as a family, yet he is opposed to this, you are not?
Well, I think there are probably two good reasons. One is that Daniel is very Christian, and I think that his stance is entirely intellectual and moral, and it's based on what he thinks is right. And by the way, our experiences were very different because he didn't see a lot of his uncle dying. He didn't live near us. I expect he visited him once, perhaps. I think if you can divide the people who are passionate supporters of assisted dying and people who are not by their experience of it, I think that the antis, the people who are against the idea of changing the law, are generally very principled and either very religious or very intellectual about it. They think something is wrong and should not happen.
They also think it could be open to abuse, don't they? In terms of where do you draw the line?
Yes. Daniel, a lot of Daniel's argument is about the worry of not having proper safeguards, of people being, bullied into dying, by greedy families who want to inherit their money, or maybe more sinisterly by a system. The idea that the NHS, which is desperate for the beds that are being cluttered up at the moment by old people who have nowhere else to go, will sort of suggest to them that they ought to choose an assisted death. I think that that's nonsense.
You recently penned an open letter to political party leaders, and in it you said our current law, which forces people facing a bad death to choose between suffering, suicide and Switzerland.
Or Switzerland.
That's the stark terms that people are facing, the terrible choice. You've addressed it to party leaders. Have you had a response from them?
Actually, we've had quite good responses from them. I don't know all the exact numbers, but I've been campaigning a lot recently, and it is extraordinary how many people just say, we've never really thought about this. We should think about it, and you are right. I think every single poll that asks people how they feel about this has an overwhelming majority in favour of the law being changed so that you don't have that stark choice of suicide or just suffering or putting up with it. I think Switzerland is a kind of red herring because so few people can afford it anyway. And it's not much of a way to die anyway. I don't want to have to travel to Switzerland when I'm really ill on my own, because you don't want to travel with your family because you will be breaking the British law then.
Well, Dame Prue Leith, thank you so much for talking to us on the UK Tonight. A final thought to those who are watching at home. As I said, you've penned this open letter. You're collecting signatures to get this discussed in Parliament. A final thought before we go.
A final thought. You know what? I feel quite hopeful about this. I think we're going to have a new government. The word is getting out that more and more MPs are coming over to our side. And I think that in the next Parliament, we're going to have an assisted dying bill that will be humane. And in years to come, people will look back and think, why on earth didn't they do that before?